Steroids. Steroids are great. What's interesting about the anabolics question, PEDs as they're called now, performance-enhancing drugs, if you go back to the pre-1990s, let's say, so 1950s, 60s, 70s, 80s, all these things were available essentially over the counter. Or if not over the counter, they were much easier to acquire. And then 1988 Olympics comes along, Ben Johnson scandal, and everybody was using in the Olympics. It wasn't just Ben Johnson. But he got scapegoated, and there was a moral panic around anabolic steroids. Lyle Alzado, if anyone who remembers that guy, supposedly they gave him brain cancer. And so in 1990, Congress, against the recommendations of the DEA and HHS and FDA and AMA, they decided to schedule steroids as Schedule III drugs. And again, medical body at the time said that scientifically these things do not qualify, but Congress said, whatever, we're going to do it. This is during the Bush administration, Bush 1, and they did. And then after that passed, it turned the whole market underground. So it created a whole class of criminals overnight, of guys who want to use anabolics. You're not actually committing any real crime against another person, but now you're a criminal because you want to use testosterone. And DARE during the 1990s, even if you go into comic books, Bane, Venom, there's this whole moral psyop campaign to make every guy that wanted to use anabolics look evil. You're going to beat your girlfriend, and you're going to kick puppies, and you're going to slam your head through a glass window, so on and so forth. But does any of that actually happen when you use these things? Well, if you use a lot and you take abusive dosages, you engage in polypharmacy, yeah. Anabolics, and anabolics meaning testosterone, we're talking about the same thing. TRT, steroids, it's all testosterone or some form thereof. Yeah, if you go too high with them, they can have adverse effects because they affect your neuroendocrinology. But so do SSRIs. So do all psychiatric drugs. And that's the interesting thing about anabolics, I find, in comparison to other drugs. If you take statins because you want to keep your cardiovascular health clean, I'm not going to get into that argument, but let's say you take statins, you want to live a long time, you want a healthy heart, no one's going to argue against doing that. Cardiovascular enhancement, though. If you get an artificial hip, oh wow, you're not willing to accept that your joints broke down, but no one can see your artificial hip, or your artificial knee, or your replacement shoulder. No one has any issue with that. If you get laser eye surgery, I'd like to see better. You can't be happy with the eyes that God gave you? No, I want to see better. Nobody has any issue with any of those things because they're not visible. They're not obvious. But if you want to take testosterone to not just enhance your physique, but to have more self-confidence, motivation, drive for life, sex drive, insulin sensitivity, increase your bone density. Since the reason a lot of guys use TRT, it's not just for the muscle. It's all the other health effects. If you want to use testosterone, oh no, you're a bad guy. And then the moral arguments start. And it makes me think of Rene Girard. So if you ever read Girard, Mimetic Theory, desire is borrowed, but so is resentment. And when we see somebody and we resent them for having something that we'd like to have but we don't, we need to tear them down. So rather than respect their hard work, the fact they made a decision for themselves, their personal sovereignty, we need to say that it's theft. You didn't actually work for that physique. You would never actually look that way if you were natty and a better, more moral human like me. You stole it. You cheated. Cheated at what? Cheated in competition? No, just cheated at something that I can't really articulate, but I'm going to browbeat you for it. It's a bullshit argument. I am, personally, do I use anything? No. I have very healthy testosterone levels. I never felt personally the need. I'm happy with myself that way. Do I encourage guys to use it if they're curious or they think there's a medical need for it, they're hypogonadal? Yeah, by all means, do as you want. Do as you want. I want people to be healthy, happy, confident, look good, have a great life, sex life, all those things. Do what delivers that kind of quality of life. That's it. I don't think there's any real moral dimension. Now, if you're going to use steroids and then claim you're natural, yeah, you're lying. If you're going to use steroids and then compare yourself to natural guys, that's not a reasonable comparison. If you want to use anabolics to, as I said, increase your quality of life, by all means, go for it.